So the question is, when did we first meet, and what was our first impression of one another when we first met each other? I believe the first time I met my princess, I was in line at registration at Christ for the Nations. It was the first day at school there, and I was registering, and I remember I was with my mother, and she was probably the only person I remember meeting, and or not, actually didn't even meet her. I only saw her, but she was probably the only person I remember seeing that entire day at registration, besides my roommates, of course. But I remember seeing her, and my mother and I were standing in line behind her, and my mother and I weren't saying anything. And her father, and I remember her father had red hair. I remember him very clearly, and that was the first time I ever saw him. And they were talking, and she was talking to her father and another young girl that was attending Christ for the Nations. And I remember her talking, and she was just going on and on, and I remember looking over at my mother and saying, "Mom, she talks a lot." And that was my first impression of her. But I did think she was cute, and then later, when I actually officially met her and we got a chance to hang out a little bit, I found myself being attracted to her. But when I went to Christ for the Nations, I was very anti-women and anti-girls, and I'm here for Jesus, so I just knocked all those thoughts out of my head, and every time I think about a girl at all for the first 2 years, I just wouldn't have anything to do with it. I carried a stick around with me everywhere I went, and beat them all off, and then finally, it was God's timing, and He gave me the best princess in the whole wide world.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my story's a little different. I didn't remember Will from registration, but the first time I met him was at Sonic that same night. But I don't really remember him quite that well, but the first time I do really remember meeting him was when we went cliff jumping, a group of us, probably about 20, and I jumped off...
Cliff jumping into water.
Into water, and it was a 60-foot cliff and a 15-foot cliff.
Like a 40-foot cliff.
Oh, 40-foot cliff. And a 15-foot cliff. Anyways, and he was doing like flips and dives off the 40-foot. And I was scared to just pencil, and I kept doing it wrong. And anyways, I decided to go to the 15-foot cliff. So I was kind of getting scared and tired of jumping off the 40-foot cliff. And I remember him walking up to me and telling me how I should do a flip or a dive off the 15-foot ledge. And I've never even done a flip or dive off a diving board. So I just told him he was crazy. And I jumped off in a pencil style. And that was the first time I met William Miller.